Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
Our next guest has a first-class Master of Physics and a PhD in particle physics from Hertford College at the University of Oxford. And until 2012, she was a research fellow at St. John's College, Oxford. Now, for years, she worked at the German electron synchrotron accelerator DESI, based in Hamburg, and at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Geneva, before becoming interested in the physics of complex human systems. Bright woman. Now, I came across her today. She mentioned our show in a tweet that she put out from a new Twitter account, which linked to a YouTube account with videos of her in the videos explaining, telling a story about going to attend the very, very well-known court case between Boris Berezovsky and Roman Abramovich, a contract law case which she went and attended day by day as part of research as a case study for the English legal system. What happened after that, and what continues to this day, she says, has been absolutely terrifying for her and for her family. It's had huge consequences for her. It's a story of mind control, of directed energy weapons, of harassment, of overt surveillance. It's extraordinary. I'm delighted to welcome to the programme, all the way from Switzerland, Dr. Catherine Horton. Catherine, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, Richie. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on your show. It's such short notice as well, because as you said, I've just started putting up information about myself out online, and you were in fact the very first journalist who was willing to actually lend an ear and listen to my story. So thank you very much.
No, I'm delighted. Now, I know you've been in touch with a number of newspapers to try and get some interest in the story, and we'll talk about that as well. Can I ask you to sit as close as you can, Catherine, to the computer, to the microphone there, because you are a little faint there.
Okay, is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better. A little bit closer would be ideal, but it's a bit better than it was.
Okay, so can your audience hear me?
Yeah, we can. It's better now, Catherine. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's better. Thanks. Right. So, you go to tell us about the court case between Boris Berezovsky and Abramovich, Roman Abramovich, of course, the oligarch, and why you were interested in that, and tell us what happened after that.
So I should, before I launch into the story, I should also prepare people for it emotionally, I think, before I start. It's quite heavy going. And I think once I get started, I've made the experience that if you're not actually a clinical psychopath at some point, you might start feeling physically sick. Just listening to it. And I just would like to say that I don't want to leave people feeling sick so close to bedtime. So what I would like to do is explain my story and then also say what I've learned out of all this. And finally also ask perhaps your audience for help. And I'm hoping that if they feel sick listening to these horrific crimes, maybe after a while they'll feel angry, and then hopefully that will actually kick them into action to help me. Because the truth is, what has happened to me is not just unique to me. I discovered that there are in fact thousands and thousands of people across Europe in my situation, and I never knew anything about them. And in a sense, I'm almost grateful that this happened to me, because I stopped being ignorant, and now I can actually contribute my voice to trying to help them. But so here we go. What happened? And if you just summarized it very well. So I'm originally a particle physicist, but I became very interested in complex systems, and especially complex human systems. And I truly believe that the greatest advances we can make in science or human inquiry don't actually lie in science anymore, but actually in the way we organize ourselves and work together with others. And so what I mean by that is I maybe you remember in the year 2000, of course you remember the year 2008, that was the beginning of my fellowship actually, but we had this horrific financial crisis. And that was a wake-up call for me, because I essentially watched how people's lives were wrecked and people lost their home and their livelihood. So I thought, this can't be right. Surely we could do things better in finance and in many other ways in politics and even in law. So I began to think about that, and I thought I want to study human systems and how to make them better. And I thought my first case study shall be the English legal system, which is famous around the world, but it's also known for being very expensive. And so I thought, okay, I'll find a way to analyze the system and perhaps even find a way to make it better, cheaper, more efficient. I mean, this was essentially my starting point. And at the time when I had this idea, I looked in the papers, and there was this big famous case with the two Russians battling each other in the courts. And I thought, oh, that's perfect, because the court case goes over several weeks. I mean, the actual topic itself was hugely interesting. It was in the press every day. And I thought, fantastic, I'll go there. It also had some big gun lawyers, and it was just a huge spectacle. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to study the English legal system. And I should say, I didn't know the first thing about the Russians, nor about Russia. So I actually went for the English legal system. And I think I was the only person present, ironically, who didn't know anything about the Russians. I mean, it was interesting to hear about those details, but actually I was much more interested in the way the court was conducting itself. So this is how it started. So I went to attend this court case.
Every day now? You were there every day, right?
That's right.
And you were the only person there every day, because they're not the most interesting of court cases, these. So you're there every day, and I suppose other journalists are probably popping in and out, but you're there every single day.
That's right. And
Right.
I had to be there every day because I think, unlike everybody else who came for the, the spectacular tidbits and the jet setting and this millionaire, billionaire lifestyle, I actually came for the legal arguments, as silly as that sounds. And I
You nerd.
Yes, I know it, but I also I discovered that if I missed a day, or even if I just missed 15 minutes, I lost the thread,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I couldn't actually get back into it. So I was there religiously just to be able to, keep on top of everything. And I was really making an effort to understand how the lawyers were working and how the legal case, was being conducted. And I was desperately thinking, how can this be done faster, better, cheaper, So that's why I was there every day. And actually, the court case lasted several weeks. So it's by the time I joined, it was already in full swing. I joined in the beginning of November 2011, and it ran over 6 weeks to the middle of December, and then there were 2 more days in January, and that was it. But then what happened is that I think I must have seen the odd one out, because I think I attracted the attention of British intelligence. And then what happened is that I noticed, at first it was just a gut feeling, and then I noticed that I was actually being followed home. And at first, it was really just a vague feeling, and I thought, no. And then eventually, after I think the first week, there was a man waiting outside my drive every morning. And it was always a different man, but he would be just standing there waiting. And when I came out of my home, walked along the drive, I could see him smiling at me. And then I turned off into the street to walk to the train station in Oxford to travel down to London. And he would set off as soon as I turned into the street. And it would happen the first day, and it would happen again, and it would happen again, and so on. And I think the first day he followed me all the way to the train station. And then the next day, people only followed me halfway there. And as soon as one person turned off, I noticed that someone else would be taking over. So bit by bit, it was almost like a slow pantomime of what was happening. So they, very slowly, I managed to map out this sort of organized surveillance system with which I was accompanied all the way to the court and all the way back. And it was absolutely incredible. But in the beginning, I did a couple of little tests, and the typical things one does: suddenly turn off into a shop and see if the person actually is following you. And I realized, yes, they are following
And they
you.
were. So did you confront any of these men?
No, I didn't, because I first of all, initially, I thought, oh, maybe it's the Russian litigants. They had such a huge security operation around them.
Right.
And really, it's not something you want to challenge. And then eventually I thought, they had such local knowledge. I thought, oh, maybe it's British intelligence. But then what am I going to say? I mean, they're just doing their job. So I thought, I'm just going to continue, going every day. But it was very, very odd, and it is actually quite disconcerting. And you always think, but why would they do it so overtly? If they were British intelligence, why would, I mean, they could just, they know who I am. I work for St. John's College. They know, everything about me for the past 10 years. So
that's the thing, Catherine, because I can understand why they'd be very interested in who's paying attention to this particular court case. These two guys, oligarchs, billionaires. But it would have been very easy, very quickly to find out who you were, your academic background, and then say to themselves, well, all right then, yeah, she's just interested for academic reasons. But they didn't. They kept this up, right? This went on and on.
Yes, it went on. And they really, after the end of the court case, it morphed into overt demonstrative harassment and spy theater. And at the time I thought, oh, maybe they're still unsure. If you're not sure what you're looking for and you just think, oh, this person is strange and there could be something, you just keep going and you keep going. And if there's nothing, because this person really is just an academic, then you just keep going forever,
Were you nervous?
Well, in the beginning, it was extremely disconcerting, extremely. But then again, after a while, it was also just such a pantomime. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, and then I have to say, after a while, it looked pretty much, well, it looked very Monty Python and less, KGB and that whole.
Yeah.
I mean,
now on that point, some of our listeners might be saying, well, if it was a pantomime and Catherine was bemused by it, why didn't she confront one of these guys and say, look, guys, what is going on? Who are you people? Why are you bothering with me?
Well, because it's actually very difficult, because now I'm also telling the entire story in hindsight. So
of course.
For 5 years. And in the beginning, you never know, oh, is this just coincidence? And you're essentially waiting to see what this pans out to be, in a sense, And also the way it's done is such that sometimes these people are standing across the street, so the way it was done with me is that I was systematically conditioned to respond to trench coats and dark hats, literally, as you would expect in a spy movie. And then these men would put on spectacles, behave oddly, but not necessarily right next to me, maybe across the street, or they would be waiting close to my drive and then walk off when I came home. So it was done in a way that they made sure I noticed them, but they were not necessarily right in my face. And just
it wasn't aggressive. They just wanted you to notice them. Now, at any time did it occur to you? I mean, if I was you, Catherine, I would have been saying, Jesus, Catherine, you've worked at DESI in Hamburg. You've worked at CERN in Geneva. I wonder, is it anybody connected to those projects who just want to keep an eye on me?
Yes, I don't think so, because despite all the things that people say about, CERN and all these places, the reality is a lot more boring. I mean, I should say also that CERN is a huge sprawling site, so you never know, is any of your colleagues involved in something else? That's true. But as far as the big experiment is concerned, I have worked on the Atlas experiment, and I have to say the reality is never quite what they, what people who are maybe interested in this stuff but are not particle physicists make it up to be. So for example, what I always like to say is it's true, we have created a black hole at CERN. It's not just a conspiracy, we have created a black hole.
Money.
But it's in the pension fund. It is going to swallow us up, but it's actually a financial black